Welcome to Story Planet, where every tale is a journey of kindness, heart, and discovery. Tonight, we invite you to step into the peaceful world of Taro, a humble man from a quaint Japanese village, whose simple acts of generosity lead to extraordinary blessings. This story reminds us that even the smallest gestures can bring about the greatest fortunes, and that a kind heart shines brighter than any treasure. So, settle in, relax, and let the calm and magical village of Taro fill your night with warmth and wonder. The journey begins now. The Straw Millionaire. Long ago, nestled between rolling hills and lush fields of rice, there lived a humble and kind-hearted man named Taro. Taro was a man of modest means, living in a small, weathered hut on the edge of the village. His possessions were few: an old straw hat, a single pair of sandals, and a set of well-worn farming tools. Though he lacked wealth and status, Taro's heart was rich with compassion and generosity. He often helped others in the village without expecting anything in return, whether it was lending a hand in the fields, fixing a neighbor's fence, or sharing the little food he had with travelers passing through. Despite his good nature, Taro sometimes found himself wishing for more, not for riches or luxury, but for a way to provide better for those he cared about. His simple life was fulfilling in many ways, but deep down, he longed for the opportunity to improve the lives of others on a grander scale. He believed that if he had just a little more, he could help even more people and make a lasting impact on the world around him. The Festival of Wishes. One day, news spread through the village of a special festival that would be held at the local shrine atop the mountain. The villagers believed that during this festival, the gods would grant wishes to those with pure hearts who prayed earnestly. The shrine was ancient, said to be blessed by the spirits of the mountains and the stars. It was a place of great reverence, and many traveled far to visit it, hoping their prayers would be heard. Taro, hearing of the festival, decided to make the pilgrimage up the mountain. He wasn't one to ask for much, but this seemed like an opportunity to seek guidance for his future. He hoped the gods might offer him a path, something small but meaningful, that would allow him to live a more impactful life. The journey to the shrine was long and arduous. The narrow mountain path wound through dense forests and rocky outcrops, with the sun beating down overhead. Despite the heat and the difficult climb, Taro pressed on, determined to make his wish with all his heart. When he finally reached the shrine, he was exhausted, but filled with hope. He knelt before the ancient altar, his hands clasped tightly in prayer, and whispered his wish. "Honorable gods," Taro began softly, "I do not seek wealth or luxury for myself. I only wish for the opportunity to help others. Please guide me on a path where I can make a difference, no matter how small." He remained in silent prayer for several minutes, the cool breeze of the mountain offering some relief from the heat of the day. The shrine was quiet, save for the gentle rustling of the trees and the soft chirping of birds in the distance. When Taro finally opened his eyes, he looked around, half expecting some sign from the gods. At first, there was nothing. The shrine remained peaceful and still. But as he stood to leave, his eyes caught sight of something peculiar lying on the ground beside the altar. It was a single, thin piece of straw, seemingly left behind by the wind. Taro picked up the straw, twirling it between his fingers. Is this a sign? He wondered aloud. It seemed strange that such a small, insignificant thing could be the answer to his prayer. But Taro was not one to question the gods. He carefully tucked the straw into his obi, the sash around his waist, and began his journey back down the mountain. The butterflies dance. As Taro made his way down the winding path, the sun began to sink lower in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape. The mountain air was fresh, and the trees whispered softly in the breeze. Taro walked slowly, reflecting on the simplicity of the straw he had found. He wondered what significance it might hold, but for now, it seemed like little more than a humble token. Suddenly, Taro noticed something fluttering near him. A vibrant butterfly with wings of orange, yellow, and black danced in the air, swirling gracefully around him. The butterfly flitted closer, its delicate wings catching the last rays of sunlight, and Taro couldn't help but smile at its beauty. On a whim, Taro held up the piece of straw, waving it gently in the air. To his amazement, the butterfly landed softly on the straw, its wings still for a moment as it rested. Taro stared in wonder at the tiny creature, its fragile form perched atop the simple straw as if the two belonged together. "You are a curious little thing," Taro said with a chuckle. "Perhaps this is the beginning of something after all." As he continued down the path, Taro carried the straw with the butterfly resting on it, its wings occasionally fluttering as if to keep its balance. It was a small but magical moment, one that filled Taro's heart with a sense of quiet joy. A grateful mother. As Taro approached the village, he came across a young woman carrying her small child on her back. The child, no more than a few years old, was crying and squirming, clearly uncomfortable from the long walk in the heat. The mother looked exhausted, her face drawn with worry and frustration as she tried to calm her restless child. Taro, always eager to help, approached the woman with a kind smile. "Excuse me," he said gently. "It seems your child is unhappy. Perhaps this might distract them?" He held out the piece of straw with the butterfly still perched on it. The child, who had been wailing moments before, stopped crying and looked at the butterfly in wide-eyed wonder. A smile spread across the child's face as they reached out to touch the straw and watch the butterfly's wings flutter softly. The mother sighed in relief, her shoulders relaxing as her child quieted. "Thank you," she said gratefully. "I've been trying to calm him for hours, but nothing worked. You've given us a moment of peace." Taro nodded modestly, happy to have helped in some small way. As he turned to leave, the woman stopped him. "Please, let me give you something in return," she said, reaching into the basket she carried. She pulled out 3 ripe oranges, their bright skins glowing in the fading sunlight. "These are fresh from my orchard," she explained, pressing them into Taro's hands. "Take them as thanks for your kindness." Taro hesitated for a moment, reluctant to take something from someone who might need it more than he did. But the woman insisted, and so Taro bowed gratefully and accepted the oranges. He continued on his way, the weight of the oranges in his hands reminding him that even small acts of kindness could lead to unexpected rewards. The trade for the silk cloth. A few days later, Taro found himself wandering along the road outside the village, unsure of where his journey might take him next. The piece of straw, which had led to the oranges, was no longer with him, but he felt as though the gods were still guiding his steps. As he walked, Taro came across a weary traveler sitting by the side of the road. The man's clothes were dusty and worn, his face drawn with fatigue from a long journey. He had no food with him, and his expression was one of exhaustion and hunger. Taro, remembering the oranges in his basket, approached the traveler with a smile. "Greetings, traveler," he said warmly. "You look as though you could use some refreshment. Would you like an orange to ease your hunger?" The traveler looked up, surprised by Taro's generosity. "You would offer me an orange, just like that?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Of course," Taro replied, handing him one of the ripe oranges. "It's important to help others when we can." The traveler accepted the orange gratefully, peeling it and eating it with great relish. The sweet, juicy fruit seemed to revive him, and as he finished, he smiled at Taro, his energy restored. "I have nothing much to give in return," the traveler said, "but I do have this." He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small, folded piece of silk cloth. The cloth was finely woven, its surface shimmering in the light, with delicate embroidery of flowers and leaves stitched in golden thread. "This silk cloth has brought me luck on my travels," the man explained, handing it to Taro. "Please take it as a token of my gratitude." Taro accepted the silk cloth with a bow, marveling at its beauty. It was a fine gift, one that seemed far more valuable than the simple oranges he had offered. Once again, Taro was reminded of how even the smallest gestures could lead to something greater, a chance encounter with a merchant. Several days later, as Taro made his way through a bustling market in a nearby town, he noticed a commotion near one of the stalls. A merchant was trying to set up his cart to sell rice, but one of the wheels on his cart had broken, leaving him stranded and frustrated. The merchant was struggling to fix it on his own, and the busy market offered little help. Taro, always willing to lend a hand, approached the merchant with an offer. "It looks like you could use some assistance," Taro said. "I can help watch over your stall while you repair your cart." The merchant, though initially annoyed by the situation, was grateful for Taro's offer. "Thank you," the merchant said with a sigh of relief. "If you watch my stall for a little while, I'll be able to fix the cart." Taro stood by the stall as the merchant worked on the cart. After a short time, the wheel was fixed, and the merchant returned to his stall with a smile. "You've saved me a lot of trouble today," the merchant said. "Please, take this as thanks." He handed Taro a pot of steaming rice and some fresh vegetables, a simple but hearty meal. "It's the least I can do," the merchant added. "You've been a great help." Taro accepted the meal with gratitude, feeling that his journey was continuing to unfold in ways he could never have anticipated. The silk cloth had led to food, and once again, Taro saw how small acts of kindness were rewarded in surprising ways. A horse for the future. Not long after his encounter with the merchant, Taro found himself passing through a large estate belonging to a wealthy man. As he walked near the stables, he noticed a commotion. The wealthy man's prized horse had fallen ill and was refusing to eat, much to the distress of the stable hands and the wealthy man himself. Taro, ever curious and willing to help, approached the stables. "I may not be an expert in horses," he said, "but I have some rice and vegetables that might help restore its strength. Would you allow me to offer it?" The wealthy man, desperate to save his horse, agreed, and Taro offered the horse the warm rice and vegetables he had received from the merchant. To everyone's amazement, the horse began to eat, its strength slowly returning. The wealthy man, overjoyed by the recovery of his beloved horse, turned to Taro with gratitude. "You have saved my most valuable possession," he said. "Please allow me to give you this horse as a token of my appreciation. It seems to have a special connection with you." Taro could hardly believe his fortune. What had started as a simple piece of straw had now led him to a magnificent horse. He accepted the horse with deep thanks and continued on his way, feeling as though the gods had truly blessed him. The Straw Millionaire's Journey. With his new horse, Taro's journey continued, and his reputation began to spread throughout the land. People marveled at how a poor man had risen to such fortune, and they admired his humility and generosity. He never sought wealth for its own sake, but rather used what he gained to help those in need. As word of his deeds spread, Taro encountered a wealthy landowner who was in search of a strong, healthy horse. The landowner, impressed by Taro's horse, offered him a trade. He would give Taro a large plot of fertile land in exchange for the horse. Taro accepted the offer, and with this new land, he became a landowner himself. But true to his nature, he did not hoard his wealth or seek to grow it further. Instead, he opened his land to the poor and the hungry, offering them a place to live, food to eat, and work to do. He created a community of kindness and generosity, where everyone helped one another and lived in peace. Taro's journey from a poor man with a piece of straw to a wealthy landowner was not one of greed or ambition, but of kindness, humility, and the belief that even the smallest acts of generosity could lead to great things. His story became a legend told for generations as a reminder that true wealth comes from the heart, not from gold or riches. And so, Taro, the straw millionaire, lived the rest of his life in peace and prosperity, surrounded by friends and loved ones, always grateful for the simple straw that had started it all. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Taro, whose simple kindness led to such great fortunes. If you felt the warmth of his story and believe in the power of generosity, you may consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to explore more heartwarming tales together. Turn on notifications so you won't miss the next journey with Story Planet, where every tale is a path to discovery and peace. Now, as you drift off, may your sleep be as deep and peaceful as the quiet nights in Taro's village. Sweet dreams, and until next time,